Of course, we won't know if that's the case yet, but knowing that it's possible gives me hope that part of the story-driven era of Disney TVA will live on in one way or another. Yeah, it's about time I finally talk about it. I'll admit though, the reason why I haven't talked about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur until now is largely because of my fatigue with watching anything related to Marvel. Over the past few years, I went from a huge Marvel fanboy after watching Avengers Endgame to becoming largely indifferent with anything related to the franchise. The stagnation of Marvel is a topic that probably deserves its own video, but that's up to you guys to be honest. With this in mind, when I heard about the show, I sort of brushed it aside as just another Marvel show that I'll probably think is good but nothing extraordinary. But after watching it though, well, let's just say that I definitely judged this show way too soon. So for those who haven't watched the show yet, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is about a 13-year-old girl named Lunella Lafayette who lives with her parents and grandparents in the Lower East Side, which is a neighborhood in the Manhattan borough of New York City. Lunella is a super genius who was able to create an interdimensional portal, and when she activated it, a red T-Rex came out of it. After seeing so many problems raging through the Lower East Side, or LES for short, Lunella decided that she and her T-Rex friend, who she named Devil, will go out saving people from many devious threats to the neighborhood. Together, they are known as Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, hence the name of the show. Lunella chose the name Moon Girl since the original Moon Girl was her inspiration. Initially, when I heard about this show, I thought it was going to be just another Disney/Marvel show that would somehow have very high stakes like saving the world from some force that is bigger than life itself. That's kind of what we've seen from Marvel in most of their films and shows, and what we saw in Disney's story-driven cartoons in recent years. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I would like to see a show that has an overarching story but does not have world-ending stakes. So far, the only show I like that has done that so far is The Ghost and Molly McGee, and even then, it's not a guarantee that its stakes will stay relatively small. Fortunately for me, Moon Girl does this exact thing that I want to see. For most of the show, the problems that Lunella has to solve are largely mundane, like going to a sleepover, running the family business for a day, or dealing with internet trolls. Sure, there are moments in the series where the stakes did surprisingly go up to world-ending levels, but it was never actually the end goal of any antagonist, at least not yet. Overall, while the stakes of the show are lower than most Marvel shows or other Disney cartoons, the action is just as excellent, if not better than most cartoons. Naturally, since the show is about a superhero, it's bound to have some great action scenes. And what makes these action scenes look great is the animation. Not only is it more fluid compared to most Disney cartoons recently, it's also more expressive and unique. It has been a long time since I've seen animation quality like this in a show. In fact, when I watched the first few episodes, I actually thought the colors, expressions, and fluidity was a bit overwhelming. I mean, keep in mind, the previous show that I watched before Moon Girl was Hailey's On It. But as I watched more of the show, I grew to really appreciate it for how different it is compared to other cartoons. It has that comic book look, which is very fitting given the source material. Overall, the animation is probably the best thing about this show. As a result of the rather fast-paced action and animation we see in Moon Girl, the show never really felt like it's slow or has filler episodes. While many of the episodes don't really add much to the overarching plot besides character development, each episode on its own feels like a very exciting story to watch, and that is something that most Disney cartoons generally struggle with during their season 1. Whenever people talk about shows like Amphibia or The Owl House for example, you will inevitably find some people who will complain how season 1 is a slow start. With Moon Girl, however, it would be really hard to argue the same thing. Another thing I appreciate a lot are the characters of the show. There's of course Lunella, who I mentioned before was a genius. In fact, she's likely the smartest 13-year-old character out of any Disney cartoon that we've seen in recent years. I guess Marcy Wu is probably the closest to her in terms of intellect. But like Marcy, Lunella may be book smart, but she's not really street smart, and has a hard time making strong connections with people. Also, her high intellect makes her quite arrogant and overconfident in some cases. She's essentially a great example of showing that kids, no matter how smart they are academically, still need adults in their lives to give them guidance. Speaking of which, Lunella's parents and grandparents are also great characters. They have very excellent moments, ranging from very comedic to very heartwarming, especially around Lunella. Then there's Casey, who initially I thought I would not like as much. She gave me similar vibes to how Christine was first introduced on Hailey's On It, where her main character trope is that she's way too online and social media focused, and she does kind of struggle with that flaw for a lot of the show so far. Thankfully though, she has shown more qualities than just being someone who cares about her self-image and marketing. She is genuinely a great friend to Lunella, and has a very interesting background. Surprisingly, Devil is also a character that turned out to have a lot more depth than I thought. Since he does not communicate through speech like the human characters, the show heavily relies on expressions and rough translations from Lunella. That may sound like a problem, but in a way, that makes the show have a more creative form of storytelling. We're able to sense Devil's emotions and actually connect with him like the other characters. It's the quintessential example of action speaks louder than words. Another character that's worth to mention is the Beyonder, who acted as the antagonist for a couple of episodes so far in the show, and there could be a chance that he may be the final boss in later seasons. But as of right now, he acts as a fourth wall breaking character who provides certain context and exposition to the audience. He's definitely a character that's worth talking about for another time, and if he does become the final boss for whatever reason, the stakes of the show would go up exponentially because he's also one of the most powerful characters ever written, both for Marvel and Disney TVA. Like, he's one of the few Disney cartoon characters who can beat Bill Cipher in sheer power, or at the very least match him in power. Despite the fact that Lunella, Devil, and all the villains she faced have relatively high amounts of power who are capable of causing significant damages, the conflicts we see in the show remain mostly local within New York City itself. As a result, the show has a more intimate approach to its story, focusing a lot more on local issues and personal conflicts. Moon Girl may be a show about a superhero with cool gadgets and a freaking T-Rex, but at its heart, it is a show about life in the LES of Manhattan and how a 13-year-old African-American girl gets by there on a daily basis. It's a life that I don't relate to a lot personally, but I'm sure many people who live in New York or any big city can relate to quite a bit. It is nice to see yet another demographic be represented in an animated show like this. Overall, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is an excellent cartoon that I highly recommend everyone who has not watched it yet to go ahead and give it a look. The show only has one season with 16 episodes so far, so it's still fairly easy to catch up on. Keep in mind, Season 1 is usually the weakest season for Disney cartoons, or cartoons in general, and if I'm already having high praises for the show, odds are Season 2 will be incredible, because Season 1 provided a very strong foundation, especially considering what happened at the end of Season 1, which I don't want to spoil. You should just go ahead and check it out yourself. The show on a technical level, from the writing to the animation, is just top tier, which I guess makes it the best Disney cartoon that's currently running when I remove all my biases. However, with my biases in mind, it's not actually my favorite Disney cartoon currently. Don't get me wrong, I really like the show. I'll be keeping a close eye on it, especially when Season 2 eventually comes out. But as great as it is on a technical level, I surprisingly have more enjoyment from watching Molly McGee and even Hailey's on it, even though they are technically less impressive, both in the writing and animation. It's kind of hard to explain why. I mean, part of it is due to the fact that Molly and Hailey are more relatable characters to me because of their traits, but part of it may also be due to these shows being more underrated than Moon Girl. Now granted, Moon Girl is underrated for what it is too, hence why I am making a video and telling you guys to watch it. I do get the sense that it is less niche given that it is a Marvel property, which inherently means that it will get more support from Disney at the corporate level. That's a luxury that most Disney cartoons don't get to enjoy, sadly. But yeah, don't let my bias change my main point. If you want an excellent looking, well written, story driven cartoon, and the other options from Disney right now are not cutting it, then Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is the show for you. But that is just my opinion. If you watched Moon Girl, let me know what you think of the show in the comments below, and please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to Seb13 for supporting this channel directly, and thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.